Change your oil. Less crowded than last time. Good. Right. We could sit on either side tonight. Everyone gets a roll.
All of you are here for the budget hearing tonight, and the public hearing, the comment section. You want to speak? You want to speak?
I'll take the notes.
There's the sign-up sheet.
Always chair. Just kidding. Oh no.
They want you wandering. I got twice that up there. Yeah, they got there. No, no.
We'd like to welcome everyone out to our board meeting this evening. If you think this was church, you're all on the back row. I'll tell you what, you just move up so those of us on this side of the room don't have to. Let's just balance here. There's an organizer. We'd like to welcome you all out here, even though I know it's part of your job description. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. We'd ask Jeff to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board, our first item on the agenda is the consent calendar. If we have all reviewed it, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We will now turn the time. Oh no, this is the best part of the evening. Paperwork. It's time to review and renew our superintendent's contract, to decide whether we want to keep him or not. And so I will start with, do I have a motion to approve a new contract for Dr. Jeff Stevens as it's written in the contract, and for us the contract is so constructed? And do I have a motion to do so? Janice, moved. Second. Mitzi, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You made it.
member in the audience in the board meeting for a while.
I thought she was here with the public hearing.
Well, my wife is also here, Diane, and did we do something that they thought we might do someplace else tonight? Anyway. Okay. Now to our, let's turn the time over to Kevin Cedarholm to discuss the ratification of our contract this year.
Board, Superintendent Stevens, I'm pleased to announce that the negotiation process went very well with all 3 employee groups. The details are in your packets. Thanks to the Weaver Education Association, the Weaver Educational Support Professionals, and the Weaver Administrators Association, and the district negotiation teams, it really went very smoothly this year. Some of the highlights were a 3.5% salary increase, fully funded steps and lane advancements. Insurance increased 5.05% with the district employees paying their proportionate share. The items were well received and all the groups have ratified their agreements now. So I'm recommending to the board approve the negotiated agreements with the Weaver Educators Association, the Weaver Education Support Specialists, and the Weaver Administrators Association.
Board, do I have a motion to approve said contract?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That has passed. We will now turn the time over to Dr. Robert Peterson for the most exciting part of the meeting.
Okay, you've been handed an updated budget. The biggest update from your packet is the 14 pages of my presentation, so you kind of follow along. And I'm grateful for Trent to help us out here on the computer. If you just go to that PDF, Trent. And you can drill in a little bit. Okay. It's always a good time to review what we spend on our budget and where we get our money from. And if you look on that first page, I've kind of summarized our typical breakout in revenue. These are actuals from last year, but this year the pattern is the same. You can see local, this is the M&O fund, that's our big one, Fund 1, and that funds all general operations. And we receive about $20 million in local levies, and we also collect for the state another $15.7 million. So over $35 million that we collected in taxes for the M&O fund. And this goes to the state to help fund the WPU. Then investments are up from the year before, and they're up again. This may not seem like a big deal to you, but at the start of this year, the PTIF, where we have most of our millions of dollars in the state PTIF, it's a public trust investment fund, the interest rate was 0.58. And now we're going along at a 1.01, and that's almost double on interest rate, and it seems to be climbing. And so that's a good source of revenue for us that we haven't expected. Okay, and then you can also see the bulk of our money comes from the state. The state unrestricted funds are $101 million, and state categorical funds are about $41 million, and then the rest of the money for M&O comes from federal, 13.3. The big federal programs are special ed and Title I. Those are they have the lion's share of those monies. The total revenue for M&O is approaching $200 million. It's interesting to note that 81% of our revenue is state sources. And so what the state legislature does every year is very important to school districts and Weaver School District. Okay? Another big fund we have is school food services. Sales have stayed steady at 3.7 million. We get money from the state liquor tax, and I've said this before, and it's not new to you, but this state liquor tax, the fees go to child nutrition programs across the state. And so it's true, the more alcohol that is consumed, the better for children with just joking. But that's it. But we get a good chunk of change there. Okay. Now the federal allocation is more than double the sales because of our free and reduced count. When we have children of low income, we get a big bang for our buck. Okay. And so the total revenue for food services is about 12.5 million. Okay, scroll up just a little. The capital outlay fund, we collect a property tax there, and then we also have a little bit of state funds. See that 81,000? That's the last time that we're going to be that low because we've adjusted the board shifted the tax rate, and this year we're going to get over 800,000 in that state funds. And then we have capital leases and other. So total, all the revenue here is local, 99% local. Okay, student activity fund. These are the monies that are held in schools for various things involving student clubs and activities and that kind of thing. Earnings on investments cumulative by the school is 185,000. Student fees and tuition is 914,000, and then other local. These are just sitting in balances at our schools. Most of these balances are already earmarked for a club or a group or a purpose. Okay, and so 100% of that's local. The foundation is all local, 1.1 million. And then debt service, this is what we pay off our bonds. And tomorrow morning at this study session, we're going to talk about this debt service levy and the future of this levy as it relates to what we can bond for. Okay, so that's about 12.5 million. So if you look at summary of all funds, total all revenue is 244 million, and 25% is local, 65, almost 66% is state, and then about 8% is federal. Okay, keep scrolling down. Where do we spend it? We teach people, we educate people, and the biggest category for expense is instruction. M&O, there's the M&O slice of the pie. 71% of M&O dollars, 138 million, go to instruction. And of that 138 million, 132 is compensation. So that's why when Kevin casually mentions that we gave a 3.5% base salary increase, that's not casually, it seems like it's casually said, but it's a big deal because that costs a lot of money to tinker with compensation. And then you can see the other categories. Of note is school administration. This not includes principals, secretaries, and those kinds of things of the school, 6.2%. District administration is 2%. And so we really are a lean, efficient organization when it comes to administrative costs. The total compensation spent in M&O is 90%. You can see it right there, 90%. Non-compensation items are 9.5%. Now, food services, it's kind of flipped. Non-compensation is 55%, compensation is 44%. The big expense is food. Our food contracts are very important. Capital outlay, once again, there's some compensation, 3%, but the bulk of what's spent in capital outlay is on buildings and facilities. This is high, this 30 million, because we were finishing out the bond projects. Student activity fund, once again, a little bit of compensation. And these are aides or other things that might be hired out of schools, and then the non-compensation is the big player here. Foundation has administrative cost of 196,000, and then this is what their expenses are. This is what they pay out to schools. Debt service is all non-compensation. So total funds compensation is 72%, non-comp is 29%. Okay, that's where we spend our money. All right, next. What about our fund balances? We ended the year in the general fund at 34,684,000. Just to kind of highlight a couple of these. This balance is called economic stabilization.
of 4.5 million. We refer to that as the board's rainy day fund. By law, that is limited to about 4% of your revenue, and we can go as high as in the 9 millions on that. It's kind of a moving target. We also have benefit obligations. This is for vacation and sick leave payouts. If everyone who gets vacation and sick leave were to quit today, we'd have to pay out 1.8 million, and we have it sitting aside. That's not going to happen. But we're required by governmental standards to put that away. Early retirement benefit, this helps our employees retire early. We have an early retirement incentive and insurance. That we set funds away to provide for that, $10,250,000. Programs, these are earmarked for various purposes, $6.2 million, and then unassigned is $10.8 million. That's our fund balances. You can see the fund balances in the other. Capital, we're down. Now that the bond has cleared, we have a few more expenses. This will go down a little, but not much. And then here are the other funds right there. So that's kind of interesting. Scroll down to by June 30th, which happens in a couple weeks, and when we settle the books, I expect that our fund balance here will grow to 36 million, and just scroll up just a titch. There we go. It'll grow by 36 million. It'll grow by 1.6 million. And I'm being conservative on that. I'm hopeful that it'll grow a little more. We'll see how the final estimates come in. Debt service, we're going down a little debt service, but that's okay. That was by design. And the capital, we're going to settle in somewhere around the 6 million-ish range. And that's our kind of true undesignated balance. It's about 6 million, 6.5 million. The other will come in at a little over 7 million. So a combined fund balance of 52 million by audit time next year. Okay? And this just shows the changes. All right, keep scrolling down. So what are the budget highlights? So, before I go on here, there are two motions, and we'll take care of them both after this, that need to happen. The first motion is you have to approve the budget for the current year, because we're almost done. This is our last shot. And then you have to approve a tentative or working budget for next year. Some of you, like Doug, reviewed the budget, and in that budget document, it shows us spending our fund balance down. Most districts do that. Most auditors require you to show you spending your reserves down, even though you're not going to. And it's a hotly contested thing as to how to show that. But there is a state statute that says you're supposed to submit a budget showing you spending your reserves down. And so we do, even though this is the true picture, what I just showed you of our fund balances. Okay. So, budget highlights for this year. As Kevin kind of said, we funded steps and lanes, and you can see the cost there. 3.5% base salary increase. Health insurance costs, we picked up our share, which is at 1.4 million. Health insurance is very expensive. And then also, we are anticipating more of our employees are going to join the HSA, which is going to cause our contributions to the HSA because we, the district, contribute to their health savings account. So we're kind of estimating it's going to be an additional $334,000. So those compensation items are 6.3 million. And then we've added other things that the increase in the WPU allowed us to do. It was a very healthy year from the legislature. We have a mental health support component. That includes various things. We have a school resource officer increase, a data security officer that's required by law, a replacement for loss of testing funds. They cut the UPass program. We used to get close to 80,000. They cut the UPass program to help fund the ACT test. And so we're putting in, to replace that, 25,000. We have some carryover there, and we'll evaluate in a couple of years, and may come back with a little more. An international baccalaureate program at Weaver High, and full-time office aides in our largest elementaries. And so these other subtotals add to about 297,000, almost 300,000. So what's our funding source? The new WPU dollars. The WPU increased by 4%, and for our district that amounts to $5.3 million. And that's no growth. That's if we had 0 new students on October 1. We're estimating for budget purposes 150 new students. We think we had over 200 last year. The building has been robust. We think that's a conservative estimate. We hope to get more than 150, but we want to be conservative. And if we get 150 students, we'll get almost another 500,000 by October. And then a rise in assessed value and collections, another 848,000 in our local tax rate. So these two balance. We've balanced the revenue with the expenses, the new expenses. Okay. Compensation is a big deal. The retirement rate increase, I've kind of tracked that the last several years because it's been so important for us because we've had some unfunded years. But you can see we're at the same 23.69, 23.69. So when we hire somebody and they work more than 30 hours a week, we have to pay retirement. And so that's almost 24% of their gross pay. And then when you add Social Security on that, we're well up to a third of their pay just on Social Security and retirement. This is the first year of fiscal year 12 where they had a Tier 1 and Tier 2 retirements. And you can see the Tier 2 costs slowly are rising. The Tier 1 are rising, but not percentage-wise as fast. And these are all actuals right here, and this is an estimate of what's going to happen by the end of the year. It's just a matter of time before Tier 2 dominates because Tier 1 people are just going out through attrition. Insurance. You can kind of see where everybody's at. We have Aetna at the current year, and we have Select Health. Aetna is has 31, almost 32% of the total. Select Health has 68%. Our total that we insure is a little over 1,800. That has been steadily kind of declining as our insurance became more expensive for employees, but we're kind of leveled out there at 1,800. And I suspect we'll start to turn and grow because we've made great efforts to keep our insurance plans as steady as possible. And then as other entities and organizations, as their insurances get more costly, people will come back. Every year, this is just a phenomenon that occurs. Most organizations out there in the world have their plan year that starts January 1. And every year I get phone calls in November, December saying, my spouse's insurance is now more expensive. Can I come back to the district mid-year? And we say yes. And because we had the split that was going on, people were leaving us mid-year. So that's kind of where we're at insurance. And here's the employee plan impact. The bottom line is the important thing. This is the percent that they're paying on insurance, the employees, 17%, 21, 26, you can see it increased. And with this year's dropping of the broad plan, we're actually going to increase the employee share to about 22%. So that's going to go down. Okay. All right, let's go up to the next one. The capital outlay budget. You can read the narrative. It's just kind of cool. We've been tracking this now for 4+ years, and we could put a complete by all these projects. So yay, that's good news. Capital challenges. Because of formula changes and appropriation cuts, the board wisely had a truth and taxation hearing last year. And we raised sufficient funds to help restore our textbook funding, to put our buses on a regional rotation schedule, and also to provide for much needed capital improvements. And so that was extremely important. Now we're faced with the possibility of a bond election. Because of student growth and aging buildings, district administration and the Weaver School Board are contemplating a bond election to take place in November 2017. Ongoing study of possible new schools in high growth areas and building replacement continues. Official action on the part of the board to hold the bond election will take place at the August board meeting. So we're still in the study stage, and the official action will be later. Okay. Child nutrition, just showing you the costs of lunches. We're proposing that they remain the same. Okay, it keeps going up. Tax rates. You can see the change in assessed value. Fiscal year 13, we were down by 2% from the prior year. Then we're up by 2, up by 8, up by 8.3, up by 8.8, up by 9.96. So this is our 4th year in a row of very robust increase in our assessed value. That's good news. We used to be, I always compare us to the 15 Wasatch Front districts. And prior to our tax increase, we were 14th. Salt Lake was lower than us. With our truth and taxation, we moved up to 11th. So we did move up with that truth and taxation. The average is we're still a little below the average when it comes to Wasatch Front districts. You can see large suburban districts like Davis and Nebo, Alpine, all have higher tax rates. The only suburban district with a lower tax rate is Canyons. Anyway, that's kind of my presentation on the budget. It's a kind of a big thing as far as lots of money, but at the same token, because it's all in compensation, it simplifies it somewhat, and that's what makes negotiations so important. And so at this time, President, we need to have two motions and two actions. One, to approve the current 2016-17 budget, and then one to approve the working 2017-18 budget. Oh yeah, you need a public hearing, that is true. So what we'll do is we'll approve the current budget, you open it up to any public comment, if anyone wants to comment, and then we close the public comment and have that second motion. That is correct, Jeff, thanks.
Board, do I have a motion to approve the final budget of the 2016-2017 school year of Woodbridge School District? Second. Any discussion? Any questions you have of Robert for his presentation? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Robert, now it is time that we open this board meeting for a public hearing for the 2017-2018 budget year. Don't everyone crowd at the front. There's no one here for that. First, we probably need a motion to open the budget hearing. Do I have a motion to open the budget hearing? Second? Moving second. All in favor?
Aye.
Let's reverse and go back. Now, do I have a motion to close the budget hearing? Move. Any second? Moving second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, now we are done with budget hearing. Oh, I'm sorry. Now, board, do I have a motion to approve the preliminary budget for the 2017-2018 budget year of the Woodbridge School District? Move.
Second.
Moved and seconded by John. Any discussion, board? Any questions on where we're going from? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Now, we're back to Robert. Change paperwork.
Okay, the interlocal agreement.
To discuss interlocal agreement associated with the upcoming bond election.
Okay, as kind of discussed in study session, by state law, entities that are involved in an election can be charged by the county who puts on the election their share of the cost that it takes to run an election. And we share with any other entity that might be having an election at that same time. Most of the entities in the county on November, that general election, are going to have a city race, and there are a lot of special district races in that kind of thing. And so we will be sharing costs. The county hasn't finalized those costs because all the entities are doing what we're doing. They're contemplating what exactly they're going to do on certain initiatives. And as are we. We've not officially said we're going to go for a bond election. But the county has asked that we approve this interlocal agreement that helps them kind of plan and sets up a mechanism to charge us. And it helps them also plan for polling locations and numbers of volunteers that might be needed so they can line things up. And it does not, if we choose not to have a bond election in August, it does not obligate us to any financial commitment. This just is the apparatus that helps set up that election so that it can be funded. And so we'd ask that you'd approve this interlocal agreement, and it has been reviewed by our attorney, Heidi Alder, and there's nothing in there that is alarming, and it's all straightforward.
Or do I have a motion to approve an interlocal agreement for the upcoming bond election? Janice moved. All second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. For your information, we have the fee waiver report that has been to the board minutes tonight. Is there anything that needs to be brought before the board before we adjourn? Thank everyone for being here this evening. Board, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a second.